Imagine sitting in your living room feeling a slight ache in your lower jaw or a mild upset stomach. You think it is just something you ate or a simple sign of getting older. You decide to take a quick nap to sleep it off. But what if I told you that going to sleep right now could be the most dangerous decision of your life? According to recent medical reports, approximately 6,700,000 Americans are currently living with heart issues that they completely ignored in the early stages, and that number is projected to skyrocket to 11,400,000 by the year 2050. In fact, heart failure was mentioned on over 452,000 death certificates recently. Hollywood has completely brainwashed us. Movies teach us that heart problems always look like a highly dramatic scene where someone clutches their chest in pure agony and collapses to the floor. But, as a cardiovascular specialist, I am here to reveal a terrifying truth. Real heart signals are often silent, sneaky, and perfectly disguised as everyday minor inconveniences. Today we are diving into the exact science backed by top cardiologists to decode what your body is desperately trying to tell you. We will count down the top 8 warning signs your heart is struggling, starting from the most easily dismissed to the absolute most urgent. And you absolutely must watch until the end, because the number one sign is the most dangerous, yet the most frequently ignored by older adults. First, we must shatter the biggest medical myth right now. People constantly confuse a cardiac arrest, a heart attack, and heart failure. Think of your body as a house. A cardiac arrest is a massive electrical blackout. The electrical rhythm simply shorts out, causing the heart to stop, instantly requiring immediate chest compressions or a shock to reboot the system. A heart attack is not an electrical issue. It is a severe plumbing disaster. A pipe or coronary artery gets blocked by plaque or a blood clot. The heart is still pumping, but the muscle is suffocating from a lack of oxygen. In the medical community, we live by the ultimate survival rule. Time is muscle. Every single minute you wait to get help, more heart tissue dies permanently. Understanding these critical differences is the ultimate shortcut to mastering your cardiovascular health. If you have ever assumed a heart attack and a cardiac arrest were the exact same thing, or if you have ever blamed your unusual fatigue on just getting older, I want you to go to the comments right now and type the number 1. Now that we understand the critical differences between a plumbing problem and an electrical failure, let us move into the actual warning signs your body is sending you. We are going to explore a symptom that sounds completely unrelated to your chest. Imagine sitting in a dentist chair waiting to get a tooth pulled because your jaw has been throbbing all week. Now imagine the medical professional taking one look at you and immediately calling an ambulance because you are not having a dental issue at all. You are actually having a heart emergency. This brings us to one of the most fascinating and dangerous tricks the human body can play on older adults. Medical experts call this referred pain. You see, movies have trained us to believe that a struggling heart always causes a dramatic, crushing chest pain. Many individuals describe it as feeling like an enormous elephant is sitting directly on their chest. While that heavy pressure or squeezing sensation is a classic warning sign, it is absolutely not the only way your cardiovascular system cries for help. In fact, waiting for that elephant to sit on your chest could be a fatal mistake, especially for seniors. To understand why this happens, we have to look closely at the human nervous system. Your skin has very specific nerve endings, so if you poke your finger with a needle, your brain knows exactly where the pain is coming from. But your internal organs, including your heart, do not have their own dedicated, highly specific pain wires going straight to the brain. Instead, the nerves from your heart have to share the exact same pathway in your spinal cord with the nerves coming from your left arm, your right arm, your neck, your upper back, and your lower jaw. Think of this system like a massive traffic jam at a highway toll booth. When the heart muscle is suffocating from a lack of oxygen, it sends a massive wave of panic signals to your spinal cord. That toll booth gets completely overwhelmed by the sudden rush of information. Your brain receives all these chaotic signals and gets terribly confused. It cannot pinpoint the exact internal location of the damage. So instead of making your chest hurt, your brain projects that severe pain onto the other physical areas sharing that same nerve pathway. This biological mix-up is exactly why you might feel a sudden, unexplained ache in your left arm or even your right arm. It is why you might experience a sharp pain shooting up into your neck or a dull, throbbing ache in your lower jaw that mimics a terrible toothache. So many older adults completely ignore these fatal warning signs. They book an appointment with a massage therapist for their back or a dentist for their jaw when they actually need immediate emergency medical attention. If you ever feel an unusual pain or tightness in your jaw, neck, arms, or upper back that gets worse when you walk up the stairs or do physical activity and then goes away when you sit down to rest, you must take it seriously. Do not just take a painkiller and hope it goes away by tomorrow morning. This is your body sounding the silent alarm of a blocked pipe. If you have ever experienced a strange pain in your arm or jaw and falsely assumed it was just a normal muscle cramp from getting older, please go down to the comments right now and type the number 2. Now that we have uncovered how your nervous system can project severe pain to your arms and jaw, we need to look at another critical area of your body that gets completely hijacked by a struggling heart. This brings us to a warning sign that sends thousands of older adults to the local pharmacy for stomach medicine when they actually need to call for a cardiac emergency. We are talking about the digestive system and how it secretly mirrors the health of your cardiovascular system. When people think of a heart problem, they almost never think about their stomach, but medical science shows a profound connection between the two. Let us look at what happens during a sudden blocked pipe scenario, which is a heart attack. When a coronary artery gets blocked, the heart muscle cells are suddenly starved of oxygen. As these cells suffocate and die, they rupture and release a massive wave of toxic waste products directly into your bloodstream. These chemical alarms travel instantly to your autonomic nervous system. This sudden chemical collision creates a severe physiological reaction known as cardiogenic nausea. You might experience a sudden and overwhelming urge to vomit or a terrible burning pressure in your upper abdomen. So many people falsely believe they just ate bad seafood or are having a terrible episode of acid reflux. They chew on antacid tablets hoping the pain will pass while their heart muscle is actively dying. The situation is equally deceptive when we look at a weak pump scenario, which is heart failure. When your heart becomes too exhausted to pump blood effectively, the blood flow slows down and backs up into your veins. This creates a massive traffic jam of fluid inside your body. Your stomach, your intestines, and your liver become completely waterlogged and swollen. Because these digestive organs are heavily flooded, they can no longer absorb nutrients or process food correctly. This internal flooding leads to a constant heavy feeling of bloating and a severe loss of appetite. Many older adults dismiss this warning sign, telling themselves that their stomach is simply shrinking because they are getting older. But this is a highly dangerous illusion. Because your digestive system is shutting down, your body goes into a desperate survival mode. It begins to steal essential energy and protein directly from the muscles in your arms and legs. This causes a terrifying medical condition called cardiac cachexia, where your limbs waste away and become incredibly thin while your belly continues to swell with trapped fluid. You must pay very close attention to these silent alarms. Track if you're experiencing persistent bloating, a lingering lack of appetite, or sudden, unexplained waves of nausea. These are not just simple stomach bugs, they are the desperate cries of a cardiovascular system in extreme distress. If you or someone you know has ever confused a serious heart symptom with a simple stomach ache, please go to the comments right now and type the number 3. Now that we have explored how a struggling heart can hijack your digestive system, we must travel up to the most vital command center in your entire body. We are going to look at a warning sign that forces thousands of families to look into memory care facilities when the real problem is actually sitting directly inside the chest. This is where a cardiovascular issue completely disguises itself as a neurological or mental health crisis. Let us talk about your brain. Even though your brain only makes up a tiny fraction of your total body weight, it is an absolute energy monster. It requires exactly 20% of your entire oxygen and blood supply just to function correctly. When your cardiovascular system starts to fail, your brain is almost always the very first organ to sound the alarm. If you have a weak pump situation like heart failure, Your cardiac output drops significantly. This severe reduction in blood flow creates a terrifying medical symptom known as cardiac brain fog. Older adults might suddenly forget how to do simple math, or they might lose their train of thought right in the middle of a sentence. Tragically, family members falsely assume this is the beginning of Alzheimer's disease, but there is a massive clinical difference. Dementia is a slow and steady decline. Heart-related confusion often fluctuates wildly throughout a single day. A person might be completely confused in the morning but perfectly sharp and articulate by the afternoon. This lack of adequate blood flow also causes sudden extreme dizziness or lightheadedness, especially when standing up. If your internal pump is weak, it simply cannot push the blood up to your head fast enough when you change positions, causing the room to suddenly spin. But there is an even darker psychological trick your heart can play on you during a heart attack. When the heart muscle begins to suffocate, it sends a massive wave of extreme panic signals straight to your nervous system. This creates an overwhelming feeling of severe anxiety or a dark, terrifying sense of impending doom. You might feel a sudden absolute certainty that your life is about to end even if you cannot explain why. So many older adults try to calm themselves down with anxiety medication while their heart muscle is actively dying. You must pay close attention to your cognitive health and your emotional state. Do not just blame these scary moments on aging or emotional stress. They are highly urgent medical signals from a suffocating cardiovascular system. Please comment number 4 if you have ever felt a sudden wave of dizziness, brain fog, or unprovoked panic and falsely blamed it on simply getting older. Now that we understand how a suffocating heart can trigger intense panic in your brain, we have to look at how that exact same survival mechanism physically changes your outward appearance. We're talking about sudden profuse cold sweats and a completely pale face. Imagine you are walking through the woods and you suddenly come face to face with a massive, dangerous bear. Your brain instantly triggers your primitive fight or flight response. It dumps massive amounts of adrenaline into your bloodstream. Now here is the fascinating medical truth. When your heart muscle is starved of oxygen, your brain cannot tell the difference between that internal medical crisis and an external physical threat like a wild animal. Your nervous system sounds the exact same terrifying alarm. Because your body believes you are in mortal danger, it violently constricts the blood vessels directly under your skin. It aggressively steals that precious blood away from your extremities to protect your most vital internal organs like your brain and your lungs. This sudden drastic drop in surface blood flow is exactly why a person having a cardiac emergency will instantly turn as pale as a white sheet of paper, and their hands will become ice cold. At the exact same time, that massive surge of adrenaline forces your sweat glands into maximum overdrive, causing a heavy, cold, clammy sweat, even if you are sitting quietly in a perfectly air-conditioned room. But the adrenaline does not just make you sweat, it also directly targets the failing pump itself, leading us to another widely ignored warning sign, which is a rapid, irregular heartbeat, also known as palpitations. When your internal pump becomes damaged and weak, it can no longer push a sufficient amount of oxygenated blood with each normal squeeze. To desperately compensate, the heart tries to speed up the entire operation. It starts beating much faster, fluttering wildly in your chest, or frequently skipping beats just to keep the blood moving. You must pay extremely close attention to the context of these physical changes. Notice if you suddenly break out in a cold sweat for absolutely no logical reason. Track if your heart begins to race, pound, or skip beats while you are just sitting completely still on the couch. If your cardiovascular system is struggling this hard while you are completely at rest, it is a massive red flag that your engine is actively failing. Please comment number 5 if you have ever experienced an unexplained cold sweat or a racing, fluttering heart and falsely blamed it on stress or simply getting older. Now that we have explored how a struggling heart uses adrenaline to make you sweat and race, we must look at what happens when that exhausted pump simply cannot keep up with the blood volume anymore. This brings us to a massive physical change that you can actually see and measure right inside your own home. We are talking about a symptom that makes thousands of older adults completely falsely believe they just ate way too much salty food, when in reality, their cardiovascular system is slowly drowning from the inside out. Let us dive into the exact medical science of what happens when your internal pump becomes too weak to push blood forward effectively. That returning blood has to go somewhere and begins to back up into your veins, creating a massive biological traffic jam. The pressure inside your blood vessels builds up so high that it actually forces clear fluid to leak directly out of your veins and into your surrounding body tissues. Because of the simple law of gravity, this heavy fluid naturally pools in the lowest parts of your body, which are your feet, your ankles, and your lower legs. Medical professionals call this severe fluid retention peripheral edema. This is absolutely not just a little bit of normal swelling. This is a dramatic and highly dangerous accumulation of water. You might suddenly notice that your favorite shoes feel incredibly tight, or that your socks are leaving deep, pronounced dents in your skin. If you take your finger and press it firmly into your swollen ankle for a few seconds, and the skin stays indented like a piece of memory foam, that is a classic medical warning sign. Doctors call this pitting edema, and it is a massive red flag that your heart is actively failing to circulate blood properly. But perhaps the most shocking and measurable part of this internal flooding is exactly how it affects the scale in your bathroom. This rapid fluid buildup causes a sudden and terrifying amount of weight gain. A person with a struggling heart can easily pack on 2 to 3 pounds of pure water weight overnight, or up to 5 pounds in a single week. Millions of older adults see that sudden spike and immediately blame themselves while their heart is actively begging for immediate medical intervention. You must take this daily measurement incredibly seriously. It is one of the absolute most reliable early indicators of a cardiovascular crisis, long before you ever feel any chest discomfort. You need to weigh yourself at the exact same time every single morning right after using the bathroom but before you eat breakfast. If you ever experience unexplained rapid weight gain or notice your legs blowing up like balloons, do not ever brush it off as normal aging. This simple daily ritual provides crucial life-saving information. Now that we know exactly how a failing pump causes heavy fluid to pool in your legs and spike the number on your bathroom scale, we have to follow that internal flooding to its next highly dangerous destination. Because when your cardiovascular system is drowning, that fluid does not just stay in your lower body. It eventually starts moving up. This brings us to a massive warning sign that sounds exactly like a simple winter cold or a lung problem, but is actually a desperate cry for help from your heart. We are talking about a persistent, mysterious cough and severe shortness of breath that completely ruins your ability to sleep peacefully. Every single year, thousands of older adults visit their doctors complaining of a stubborn cough. They walk out with prescriptions for asthma inhalers or antibiotics thinking they just caught a bad respiratory bug. But months go by and the coughing never stops. That is because the root cause of the problem is not sitting in their lungs at all. The real culprit is a broken heart pump completely failing to manage the fluid levels inside the chest. Medical professionals refer to this terrifying symptom as a cardiac cough. Let us look at the exact mechanics of how this happens. When the left side of your heart becomes too exhausted to pump blood forward efficiently, the returning blood has nowhere to go but backward. It reverses directly into your pulmonary veins. As this biological traffic jam builds up inside your chest, the pressure becomes so incredibly intense that it forces liquid to leak directly into the tiny, delicate air sacs of your lungs. Your body instantly panics because it literally feels like you are slowly drowning from the inside out. It triggers a violent cough reflex to try and clear the liquid out of your airways. This is not your typical dry tickle. A cardiac cough is often deep and produces a very specific type of mucus that is frothy white or even tinged with a pink blood color. But the most fascinating and terrifying part of this internal lung flooding is how it reacts to simple gravity. The moment you lay completely flat in your bed at night, that heavy fluid rushes upward and spreads across your entire lung surface. Suddenly you wake up in the middle of the night gasping for air, feeling an overwhelming sense of panic and suffocation. You find yourself needing to stack 3 or 4 thick pillows just to breathe. Doctors call this positional breathlessness orthopnea, and it is a massive, screaming alarm that your heart is actively failing. Another bizarre way this fluid shifting reveals itself is when you do something as simple as bending over to tie your shoes. This sudden forward crunching motion forcefully squeezes your waterlogged abdomen, pushing all that trapped fluid directly up against your chest. You might feel dizzy, totally breathless, or notice your heart fluttering wildly just from putting on your sneakers. You absolutely must pay close attention to your breathing patterns. Track exactly how many pillows you are using to survive the night. Never dismiss sudden breathlessness as simply being out of shape or gaining weight. This is your cardiovascular system desperately begging for oxygen. Now that we have seen how trapped fluid backs up into your lungs, causing you to gasp for air in the middle of the night, we must talk about the final and most deceptive warning sign of all. This is the ultimate red flag that your cardiovascular system is completely exhausted, and it is the exact reason why so many older adults tragically lose their lives right in their own living rooms. When your internal pump is failing, your body has to make a ruthless biological survival decision. It realizes there is not enough oxygenated blood to go around, so it acts exactly like a country at war, rationing its vital supplies. Your brain forces the heart to steal blood away from your less important areas, like the muscles in your arms and legs, just to keep your most critical internal organs alive. This creates a terrifying level of extreme physical fatigue. We are not talking about feeling a little tired after a long day of yard work. People with a failing heart describe this sensation as feeling like they are trying to walk through deep, heavy water. Your limbs feel like they are made of solid lead. Simple daily routines like walking to the mailbox, carrying groceries, or climbing a single flight of stairs suddenly become monumental, exhausting tasks that force you to sit down and rest. But the absolute most dangerous part of this extreme fatigue is the psychological trap it creates. Millions of older adults notice this sudden drop in their energy and they tell themselves a fatal lie. They say, "I am probably just getting older," or "I am just going to go lay down and sleep it off." Medical professionals universally warn that taking a nap while your heart is actively suffocating is the absolute worst decision you can make. Ignoring a warning sign is like turning off a fire alarm while your house is actively burning down. If you ever feel a sudden, unexplained wave of extreme exhaustion, you must take immediate action. Never hesitate to call emergency services. Paramedics would much rather show up and tell you it is a false alarm than arrive too late. Chewing a normal 300 milligram aspirin while you wait for the ambulance can actually help prevent a blood clot from expanding and save your life. Seichen. To wrap this all up, we have completely decoded the secret language of your heart today. True strength for an older adult is not about silently enduring the pain. True strength is having the wisdom to stop, listen to your body, and ask for medical help before it is too late. Please take care of your heart because it is the only one you have. If you found this life-saving information valuable and want to help spread this vital awareness, please share this video with someone you love.